the geologist who examined the erosion in the Temple of the Sphinx and determined it to be thousands of years of rainfall, and which would predate the Sphinx by quite a bit.
Beneath the scorching sun of Egypt, the Great Sphinx watches over the Giza Plateau, silent, enduring, and filled with secrets. What if everything we thought we knew about these ancient wonders is a lie? What if the Sphinx and the pyramids were not built by the Egyptians, but by a long-lost civilization far older than we can imagine? This shocking possibility challenges everything we know about history, time, and the true origins of human knowledge. Could the key to understanding our past be hidden in plain sight?
That the Sphinx is just 4,500 years old. By all means, yes, 2,500 BC, the ancient Egyptians were there, but I believe they found the Sphinx already created and already heavily eroded, and that they then recarved its head into the head of a pharaoh. And that head, as Robert Schoch and others have pointed out, is way too small.
The Giza Plateau, located on the outskirts of Cairo in Egypt, is home to some of the most famous and enigmatic monuments in the world, the Great Pyramids and the Great Sphinx. For centuries, these structures have been subjects of fascination, mystery, and awe. Their scale, precision, and the methods used to construct them have puzzled scholars and visitors alike. The Great Pyramids, built as tombs for pharaohs during the Fourth Dynasty of ancient Egypt, remain among the largest and most complex stone structures ever built. The Sphinx, with its lion's body and human head, stands guard over the pyramids, offering a silent but imposing presence over the site.
A weird geological anomaly, or something else was going on, and the Sphinx might go back to an earlier period. Also, I want to point out that when you look at the Sphinx, and other geologists have looked at this as well.
Despite the incredible amount of research, the Giza Plateau continues to be a place where questions outnumber answers. Many wonder how such massive and intricately designed structures could have been constructed with the tools and knowledge available at the time. Others are intrigued by the possible symbolism encoded within these monuments, particularly the alignment of the pyramids with the stars and the seemingly purposeful positioning of the Sphinx. There is an ongoing debate about the true age of these structures, with many believing that they could be far older than commonly accepted by mainstream archaeology.
Direction particularly, it's too small. The body is long, it's tall, and the head is quite out of proportion. For the ancient Egyptians who got the proportions so wrong, doesn't seem to make sense. They were masters at work in stone. There's something we must be missing with this. There has to be another piece of the jigsaw.
The most intriguing aspect of the Giza Plateau is the idea that the Great Sphinx and the pyramids may hold hidden secrets that go beyond what is currently understood. While the pyramids have long been accepted as products of the Fourth Dynasty, dating back to around 2500 BCE, there is increasing evidence to suggest that the Sphinx may be much older than that. This question of age is central to the mystery surrounding the Giza Plateau, as it could change how we understand the history of ancient Egypt and the development of human civilization. In recent years, a growing body of evidence has suggested that the Sphinx, along with the pyramids, may have been built long before the Fourth Dynasty of Egypt. This theory challenges traditional timelines and has been promoted by researchers who believe that the Sphinx could date back to a much earlier period, possibly as far as 12,000 years ago. These ideas stem from studies of the erosion patterns on the body of the Sphinx, which appear to have been caused by water erosion rather than wind and sand, as previously thought. John Anthony West, an American author and researcher, was one of the first to suggest that the Sphinx could be much older than mainstream scholars have believed. In the 1990s, West collaborated with geologist Robert Schoch, whose expertise in erosion patterns helped to further the theory. Schoch observed that the erosion visible on the Sphinx's body is consistent with the type of weathering caused by prolonged exposure to heavy rainfall, not the dry conditions typical of the Giza Plateau today. Schoch's research suggested that the Sphinx could have been exposed to significant rainfall as far back as 10,000 to 12,000 years ago, during the end of the last ice age, a time when the climate in Egypt was much wetter and the Sahara was far more hospitable. The implications of this theory are profound. if the Sphinx indeed dates back to such an early period, it could point to the existence of a highly advanced civilization long before the time of the pharaohs. This civilization would have had knowledge of astronomy, mathematics, and construction techniques far beyond what is traditionally attributed to ancient Egypt. The existence of such a civilization, lost to time, could change the way we think about the development of human culture and technology. Additionally, there is the question of the alignment of the pyramids. The three pyramids of Giza, traditionally attributed to the pharaohs Khufu, Khafra, and Menkaure, are situated in a way that mirrors the positions of the stars in the constellation of Orion's belt. This has led many to wonder if the ancient Egyptians deliberately designed the pyramids to align with these stars, which were associated with Osiris, the god of the afterlife in Egyptian mythology. The precise alignment of the pyramids with the stars of Orion is a testament to the ancient Egyptians' sophisticated understanding of astronomy. However, what is even more intriguing is that when the positions of the stars in Orion's belt are mapped back in time, they appear to align perfectly with the pyramids around 10,500 BCE, a period that predates the Fourth Dynasty by several thousand years. This alignment raises further questions about the purpose of the Sphinx and the pyramids. The Sphinx, with its lion's body and human head, has long been associated with the astrological sign of Libra. Some researchers believe that the Sphinx was originally constructed to represent a lion and was later recarved into the face of a pharaoh during the reign of Khafra, the Fourth Dynasty king. The alignment of the Sphinx with the rising sun on the spring equinox also adds another layer of mystery, as it suggests that the monument was built with great precision, possibly to mark the equinox and serve as an astronomical marker. This alignment has been confirmed by visitors to the site, who can observe the sun rising directly in line with the gaze of the Sphinx on the equinox. The question then arises, why would the ancient Egyptians build such elaborate and astronomically significant structures during a period when they were still in the early stages of their civilization? Could it be that they were building upon the knowledge and techniques of an even older civilization, one that existed long before the rise of the pharaohs? This idea challenges the traditional view that ancient Egypt was the cradle of civilization and suggests that there may have been other older cultures that had a significant influence on the development of Egyptian architecture and astronomy. As research into the Giza Plateau continues, more questions emerge. The construction techniques used to build the pyramids, the precision with which they were aligned, and the erosion patterns on the Sphinx all point to a level of sophistication that we do not typically associate with early civilizations. Some researchers believe that the ancient Egyptians were not the creators of the Giza monuments, but rather the restorers and enhancers of much older structures. According to this theory, the pyramids and the Sphinx were originally built by an earlier civilization, and the ancient Egyptians simply took over the site, adding their own monuments and preserving the ancient structures. The idea that there was a much older civilization that predates the rise of ancient Egypt is not new, but it is one that has gained traction in recent years. Evidence of ancient advanced civilizations, such as the lost city of Atlantis or the builders of the megalithic structures at Göbekli Tepe in Turkey, has sparked renewed interest in the possibility that humanity's history is far older and more complex than we have been led to believe. The Giza Plateau, with its ancient monuments, may hold the key to unlocking the mysteries of our distant past and revealing the truth about the lost civilizations that came before Egypt. The Sphinx of Giza has long been a subject of fascination, mystery, and speculation. As one of the most iconic symbols of ancient Egypt, the Great Sphinx stands proudly on the Giza Plateau, its lion's body and human head a testament to the skill and ambition of the ancient Egyptians. Yet, despite being one of the oldest and most recognizable monuments in the world, its origins and purpose remain shrouded in mystery. Perhaps the most intriguing aspect of the Sphinx is its age. For centuries, scholars have debated when it was built, with the most commonly accepted view being that it was constructed during the reign of Pharaoh Khafra, who ruled during Egypt's Fourth Dynasty, around 2500 BC. However, a growing body of research has raised questions about this timeline, suggesting that the Sphinx may be far older than traditionally believed. The most significant of these challenges comes from the study of the erosion patterns found on the body of the Sphinx. While the monument's face and head have been subject to extensive restoration over the centuries, the body of the Sphinx remains relatively intact. Researchers have noted unusual patterns of weathering, particularly on the stone around the Sphinx's body. These erosion patterns appear to be different from the typical wear and tear caused by the wind and sand of the Giza Plateau, which is known for its dry, arid climate. Instead, the erosion looks more like the kind caused by water, specifically heavy rainfall. This has led some researchers to question the accepted date for the construction of the Sphinx. In the early 1990s, John Anthony West, an independent researcher and author, began to explore the possibility that the Sphinx was much older than Egyptologists had thought. West's interest in the Sphinx was sparked by the work of French philosopher and Egyptologist, Schwaller de Lubitsch, who had noted the unusual weathering patterns on the monument. De Lubitsch had suggested that the erosion might be a result of prolonged exposure to water, which was an idea that had not been seriously considered by mainstream scholars. West, who was not a professional archaeologist but an enthusiastic amateur Egyptologist, began to investigate further. West's research led him to the work of Robert Schoch, a geologist at Boston University. Schoch had a background in the study of erosion and weathering, and his expertise would prove to be invaluable in examining the Sphinx. In 1992, West invited Schoch to visit the Giza Plateau to assess the erosion patterns on the Sphinx's body. Schoch's analysis of the Sphinx's weathering led him to a groundbreaking conclusion. He argued that the erosion could not have been caused by the dry conditions of the Giza Plateau, as has long been assumed. Instead, he suggested that the Sphinx was exposed to significant rainfall, which could only have occurred during a much earlier period, when the climate of Egypt was much wetter. Schoch proposed that the Sphinx could be as much as 10,000 to 12,000 years old, potentially dating back to the end of the last ice age. This was a radical departure from the mainstream view, which had placed the Sphinx's construction firmly in the Fourth Dynasty, around 2500 BCE. Schoch's theory challenged not only the established chronology of ancient Egypt, but also the idea that the Sphinx was built by the ancient Egyptians as a symbol of royal power. If Schoch's theory was correct, the Sphinx would have been created by an earlier civilization, one that had access to advanced knowledge and technology far beyond what was thought to exist at that time. Schoch's research has since been backed by further studies and data analysis. The most significant piece of evidence supporting the theory of a much older Sphinx is the water erosion patterns found on the monument. These patterns suggest that the Sphinx was exposed to significant rainfall over an extended period, a phenomenon that is not consistent with the current climate of Egypt. The idea that the Sphinx could be much older than previously thought has opened up new possibilities for understanding the history of ancient Egypt and the rise of civilization in the region. It suggests that there may have been an earlier advanced culture that predated the ancient Egyptians, a civilization whose knowledge and achievements were lost to time. If the Sphinx is indeed much older than traditionally believed, it raises further questions about the origins of the Egyptian civilization and the true purpose of the Sphinx. One of the key aspects of the Sphinx that has intrigued researchers is its alignment with the stars, particularly the constellation Leo. The Sphinx is aligned with the rising sun on the spring equinox, and some researchers believe that the monument was designed to mark this important celestial event. The Sphinx's head, which is thought to represent a pharaoh, may have originally represented a lion, a symbol associated with the constellation Leo. This suggests that the Sphinx may have been intended to serve as a marker for the spring equinox, a time when the sun rises in alignment with the stars of Leo. The idea that the Sphinx was originally a lion, and that its face was later recarved to resemble a pharaoh, is supported by astronomical data. If the Sphinx was constructed during a time when the constellation of Leo was rising at the time of the spring equinox, this would have been a highly significant event in the ancient Egyptian calendar. The Sphinx, with its lion's body and human head, could have been a symbolic representation of the god Osiris, who was associated with the afterlife and rebirth. In ancient Egyptian mythology, Osiris was often depicted as a lion-headed figure, and the alignment of the Sphinx with the stars of could have been intended to mark the time of Osiris's rebirth. Robert Bauval, a British researcher and author, has further explored the connection between the Sphinx and the stars, particularly the alignment of the pyramids of Giza with the stars in the constellation of Orion. Bauval's theory, known as the Orion correlation theory, suggests that the three pyramids of Giza were intentionally designed to align with the stars of Orion's belt. Orion was associated with Osiris, the god of the afterlife, and this alignment could have been intended to connect the pyramids with the celestial realm. According to Bauval, the Sphinx, which is located near the pyramids, may have been part of this larger cosmic design. The connection between the Sphinx and the stars of as well as the alignment of the pyramids with Orion, suggests that the ancient Egyptians were deeply attuned to the movements of the heavens, and used astronomy as a key component of their religious and architectural practices. The idea that the Sphinx could be much older than the Fourth Dynasty, and that it was built during a time when the stars were aligned differently, adds another layer of complexity to the mystery of the Giza Plateau. If the Sphinx was indeed constructed during an earlier period, it could be part of a much older tradition of celestial architecture, one that predates the ancient Egyptian civilization. The possibility that the Sphinx is much older than traditionally believed also has implications for our understanding of the development of ancient Egyptian culture. If the Sphinx was built by a civilization that predated the ancient Egyptians, it suggests that the Egyptians may have inherited their knowledge and architectural techniques from an earlier culture. This could explain some of the remarkable achievements of the ancient, such as their advanced understanding of mathematics, astronomy, and engineering. It also raises the possibility that there were other now lost civilizations that played a role in the development of human culture and technology, long before the rise of ancient. The Great Pyramids of Giza, standing as the pinnacle of ancient Egyptian architectural achievement, continue to captivate researchers and visitors alike. For centuries, their construction methods and purpose have been a subject of intense debate, but the mysteries surrounding these iconic structures extend far beyond the mere logistics of their building. One of the most striking aspects of the pyramids is their precise alignment with the stars, particularly those in the constellation of Orion's belt. The alignment of the pyramids with Orion is not a coincidence, but rather a deliberate and significant feature that has sparked numerous theories about the motivations and knowledge of the ancient Egyptians. The link between the pyramids and the stars is crucial to understanding not only their physical design, but also their deeper symbolic meaning within the context of ancient Egyptian religion and cosmology. The three primary pyramids of Giza, those of Khufu, Khafra, and Menkaure, are positioned in such a way that they mirror the pattern of the stars in Orion's belt. The association between the pyramids and Orion is not a recent discovery. It has been observed for centuries. However, it was the work of Robert Bauval, a British researcher and author, that brought the precise alignment of the pyramids with Orion's belt to the forefront of modern discussions. Bauval's Orion correlation theory, first proposed in the 1990s, suggests that the pyramids were intentionally constructed to align with the stars of Orion, which were closely associated with the god Osiris, the ancient Egyptian deity of the afterlife and resurrection. According to Bauval, the pyramid's layout on the Giza Plateau is not merely a random arrangement of monumental structures. Instead, it was deliberately designed to mirror the celestial configuration of Orion's belt as it appeared around 10,500 BC. This date, which falls during the end of the last ice age, is significant because it marks a time when the stars of Orion's belt were in perfect alignment with the pyramids on the ground. Bauval's theory challenges traditional archaeological assumptions about the construction of the pyramids and offers a new perspective on their purpose. The alignment of the pyramids with Orion is more than just an astronomical coincidence. In ancient Egyptian mythology, the constellation of Orion was associated with Osiris, the god of the afterlife, resurrection, and rebirth. Osiris was believed to dwell in the heavens, particularly in the starry region of Orion, and his soul was thought to reside there for eternity. The ancient Egyptians believed that the pharaohs, upon their death, would join Osiris in the afterlife and become stars in the constellation. This belief in the celestial afterlife was integral to the Egyptian understanding of life, death, and resurrection. The alignment of the pyramids with Orion's belt, therefore, takes on profound symbolic significance. It suggests that the pyramids were not just tombs for the pharaohs, but also cosmic monuments designed to facilitate the pharaoh's journey to the afterlife. The pyramids were intended to connect the earthly realm with the celestial realm, ensuring that the pharaohs would ascend to join Osiris in the heavens. The precise alignment of the pyramids with the stars of Orion was not a mere architectural feat. It was a deliberate act of cosmic symbolism, intended to mirror the eternal cycle of life, death, and rebirth. The connection between the pyramids and Orion is further reinforced by the fact that the ancient Egyptians believed in the concept of as above, so below. This idea held that the physical world was a reflection of the heavens, and the alignment of the pyramids with the stars was an expression of this cosmic principle. The construction of the pyramids in alignment with Orion's belt was not just about placing the pyramids in the correct position. It was about embodying the divine order of the universe and ensuring that the pharaohs could ascend to the heavens in a manner that was in harmony with the stars. However, the mystery surrounding the pyramids of Giza does not end with their alignment with Orion. One of the most fascinating aspects of the pyramids is the fact that they appear to have been constructed with a level of precision that seems almost beyond the capabilities of the ancient Egyptians. The Great Pyramid of Khufu, the largest and most famous of the three, is composed of an estimated 2.3 million blocks of limestone and granite, each weighing several tons. The pyramid is so precisely aligned with the cardinal points of the compass that its sides are almost perfectly oriented to true north, south, east, and west. In fact, the alignment of the Great Pyramid is accurate to within just a few arc minutes, an incredible feat considering the tools and technology available to the ancient Egyptians. The precision with which the pyramids were constructed raises the question of how such advanced knowledge and engineering skills were developed. Traditional Egyptology places the construction of the pyramids around 4,500 years ago, during the reign of Pharaoh Khufu. Yet, the level of sophistication displayed in the construction of the Great Pyramid seems to suggest a much higher level of knowledge and technological expertise than would have been available at that time. Some researchers, including Balval and others, who have examined the astronomical and architectural features of the pyramids, have suggested that the Egyptians could not have been the originators of such advanced techniques. Instead, they propose that the knowledge and skills required to build the pyramids may have been passed down from an earlier, more advanced civilization. This theory is closely linked to the idea that the pyramids were built on the foundations of much older structures. There is evidence that the Great Pyramid of Khufu, in particular, may have been constructed on top of an existing platform or mound that was already considered sacred long before the Fourth Dynasty. Some researchers suggest that the pyramid was not the original structure on the site, but rather a renovation or enhancement of a much older pre-existing monument. This idea challenges the conventional understanding of the history of the Giza Plateau and suggests that the pyramids may have been built on top of an earlier forgotten civilization's structures. Furthermore, the construction of the pyramids may have involved a sophisticated understanding of mathematics, geometry, and astronomy. The Great Pyramid, for example, contains complex internal passageways, chambers, and shafts, many of which align with the stars and cardinal points. The layout of the pyramid and its internal structure appear to have been carefully designed to embody cosmic principles, particularly those related to the afterlife and the journey of the soul. The use of mathematical ratios, such as the golden ratio, in the design of the pyramids has also been noted by researchers. These mathematical principles suggest a high level of knowledge and expertise, which raises the question of where this knowledge originated. The idea that the ancient Egyptians were not the sole creators of the pyramids is further supported by the discovery of megalithic structures in other parts of the world, such as Göbekli Tepe in Turkey, which predates the pyramids by thousands of years. These structures also exhibit advanced architectural techniques and astronomical alignments, suggesting that there may have been a widespread tradition of megalithic construction that spanned across ancient civilizations. The similarities between the pyramids of Giza and these other megalithic sites suggest that the knowledge and techniques required to build such structures may have been shared or passed down by an earlier civilization, one that predates both Egypt and Mesopotamia. Despite these intriguing possibilities, mainstream Egyptology continues to maintain that the Great Pyramids were constructed by the ancient Egyptians during the Fourth Dynasty. According to this view, the pyramids were built as tombs for the pharaohs, reflecting the power and authority of the ruling elite. The alignment of the pyramids with the stars is seen as a reflection of the Egyptians' religious beliefs and their understanding of the afterlife. The pyramids were not just tombs but monumental symbols of the pharaohs' divine status and their connection to the gods. The idea that the Great Sphinx and the pyramids of Giza may not have been the original constructions of the ancient Egyptians has intrigued scholars for many. While the traditional view holds that these monumental structures were built by the Fourth Dynasty pharaohs around 2500 BC, a growing body of research suggests that these iconic monuments may have been built on top of much older pre-existing structures. The concept of a lost civilization, whose knowledge and achievements were passed down to the ancient Egyptians, is one that challenges conventional ideas about the origins of Egyptian culture and technology. This theory proposes that the ancient Egyptians were not the creators of the pyramids and the Sphinx, but rather the inheritors of knowledge passed down from an earlier advanced civilization. The notion that the Sphinx and the pyramids were part of a much older tradition is supported by various pieces of evidence, particularly the erosion patterns on the Sphinx, the astronomical alignments of the monuments, and the architectural techniques used in the construction of the pyramids. These structures are so precise and sophisticated that they suggest a level of knowledge far beyond what is typically attributed to the ancient Egyptians. Some researchers argue that these monuments could have been built by a civilization that existed long before the rise of ancient Egypt, possibly as far back as 12,000 years ago, during the end of the last ice age. This would place their construction in a time period when the climate of the Giza Plateau was much wetter and the Sahara was a fertile, habitable region. One of the key pieces of evidence supporting this theory is the erosion on the body of the Sphinx. As mentioned earlier, geologist Robert Schoch's analysis of the Sphinx's weathering suggests that the monument was exposed to significant rainfall, which would have been impossible in the dry climate of modern-day Egypt. The water erosion patterns observed on the Sphinx's body are more consistent with the type of weathering caused by a prolonged period of heavy rainfall, rather than the dry wind and sand typical of the region. This has led Schoch and others to propose that the Sphinx is much older than traditionally believed, and could date back to a time when the climate of Egypt was much wetter, possibly around 10,000 to 12,000 years ago. If the Sphinx is indeed much older than the Fourth Dynasty, it suggests that the ancient Egyptians may have inherited their knowledge of astronomy, mathematics, and architecture from an earlier, more advanced civilization. This lost civilization could have been responsible for the construction of the Sphinx and the pyramids, and the Egyptians may have simply built upon the foundations of these earlier monuments. According to this theory, the Egyptians would have used their advanced knowledge to restore and enhance the existing structures, rather than creating them from scratch. This would explain the remarkable precision and sophistication of the pyramids, as well as the alignment of the monuments with the stars and other astronomical phenomena. The idea that the ancient Egyptians inherited their knowledge from a much older civilization is further supported by the mythological traditions of ancient. The Egyptians believed in the concept of Zep, or the first time, which referred to a mythical epoch when the gods walked the earth and imparted knowledge to the people. According to Egyptian myth, 7 sages brought wisdom to ancient Egypt, teaching the arts of agriculture, architecture, and astronomy. This concept of a golden age when the gods directly influenced human civilization suggests that the ancient Egyptians may have seen themselves as inheritors of knowledge passed down from an divine civilization. The idea of Zep also appears in other ancient cultures, such as Mesopotamia, where the myth of the 7 sages is repeated. This widespread belief in a lost civilization that imparted knowledge to Later cultures is another piece of evidence supporting the idea. The idea is a much older civilization that predates ancient Egypt. The notion of a lost civilization that passed down its knowledge to the ancient Egyptians is not just confined to mythology and erosion studies. The architectural and engineering techniques used in the construction of the pyramids are also consistent with the idea of a much older civilization. The Great Pyramid of Khufu, for example, is constructed with such precision that its alignment with the cardinal points of the compass is almost flawless. The pyramid is made up of millions of stone blocks, some weighing several tons, and its internal passageways are designed with incredible precision. The techniques used to transport and place these massive stones still not fully understood, and it is clear that the builders of the Great Pyramid possessed advanced knowledge of geometry, engineering. The alignment of the pyramids with the stars, particularly the stars of Orion, that the ancient Egyptians engineers in turn enjoyed their astronomical knowledge from an earlier civilization. The alignment of the pyramids with Orion is not merely a coincidence. It reflects the Egyptians' deep understanding of the heavens and their belief that the stars were closely tied to the afterlife. The ancient Egyptians believed that the soul of the pharaoh would ascend to the stars after death, and the alignment of the pyramids with the stars of Orion was a symbolic representation of the journey. The fact that the pyramids were constructed to align with the stars of Orion suggests that the Egyptians had a sophisticated understanding of celestial mechanics, which they made as ancient Egyptians in seven ancient Incision seven mature is enter cultures, such is enter is enters. There are also other pieces of evidence that suggest a transfer of knowledge from an earlier civilization. For example, the megalithic structure such Göbekli Tepe in Turkey, which predate the pyramids by several thousand years, display advanced astronomical alignments and architectural techniques that are. These structures, which consist of massive stone pillars arranged in circular formations, have been shown to align with the stars and the solstices, suggesting that the people who built them had an advanced knowledge of astronomy. The similarities between the megalithic structures at Göbekli Tepe and the pyramids of Giza suggests that there may have been a widespread tradition of megalithic construction that spanned across, possibly passed by an earlier civilization that existed before the rise of Egypt. If the pyramids and the Sphinx were indeed built by an earlier civilization, it would have significant implications for our understanding of human history. It would suggest that advanced knowledge and technology were not the exclusive domain of ancient, but that other now lost civilizations played a role in the development of human culture. This would challenge the traditional view of ancient Egypt as the cradle of civilization and open up new possibilities for understanding the origins of human knowledge and technology. The idea that the ancient Egyptians were not the creators of the pyramids and the Sphinx, but rather the inheritors of knowledge from a lost civilization, is a theory that continues to get among researchers and alternative historians. While mainstream Egyptology remains firmly committed to the traditional view that the pyramids were built by the Egyptians during the Fourth Dynasty, the growing body of evidence supporting the idea of an earlier, more advanced civilization suggests that the true origins of these monumental structures may be far older and more complex than previously thought. As research into the Giza Plateau and other ancient sites continues, it is likely that more evidence will emerge to shed light on the true history of these remarkable monuments and the lost civilization that may have built them. The Sphinx and the pyramids may hold the key to unlocking the mysteries of our distant past and revealing a deeper, more complex history of human civilization.